In the latest development regarding global geopolitics, Russia and China have emphasized the importance of countering US efforts to contain their respective nations, viewing it as a crucial strategic task. On November 12, Sergei Shoigu, the Secretary of Russia's Security Council, met with China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi for high-level security talks in Beijing, where they underscored the need for stronger cooperation between their countries to combat what they described as a dual containment policy from the United States and its allies. This joint stance reflects a growing alignment between Russia and China, particularly as both nations feel increasingly cornered by the West. The timing of these discussions is particularly significant as it comes amid mounting tensions between Russia, China, and the US. The US has long been a driving force in imposing sanctions on both Russia and China, with Washington seeking to curtail their economic and military growth. The US government has expressed concerns about the rising influence of these two countries, particularly regarding their growing military capabilities, technological advancements, and economic cooperation. Shoigu's meeting with Wang Yi highlights the importance both nations place on deepening their strategic partnership to counterbalance US policies. Shoigu's remarks in Beijing also signal a shift in the global balance of power. As China continues to expand its influence in Asia and beyond, and Russia seeks to regain its position on the world stage after years of economic isolation and political tension with the West, their cooperation is becoming an increasingly central pillar of their foreign policies. Shoigu's statement stressed that the US and its allies are using a dual containment approach, aimed at restricting both Russia and China simultaneously, which the two countries view as a threat to their sovereignty and national security. Meanwhile, former US President Donald Trump, in an interview with Fox News' Tucker Carlson just days before his victory in the 2016 US presidential election, made a striking comment regarding the growing partnership between Russia and China. Trump argued that President Joe Biden's policies had inadvertently allowed for the formation of a stronger alliance between Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Specifically, he pointed out that the economic relationships, particularly those revolving around oil, had strengthened these nations' ties. Trump cited a conversation with one of his professors from the Wharton School of Finance, who warned him about the risks of Russia and China uniting. According to Trump, this alliance was something the US should have avoided at all costs, calling it a serious concern for American global dominance. Trump's comments allude to a broader narrative about the geopolitical consequences of US foreign policy in the 21st century. The strengthening of the China-Russia relationship has alarmed many in Washington, who see it as an emerging threat to US interests. The ability of both nations to cooperate on military, economic, and diplomatic fronts challenges the US's dominance in international affairs. Trump, known for his America First foreign policy, hinted at the need for US intervention to prevent this alliance from becoming a permanent fixture in the global order. In response to these growing concerns, Iran and Russia have also taken steps to strengthen their economic ties. In a new effort to counter Western sanctions, the two countries have linked their banking systems. This move is seen as a direct attempt to bypass sanctions that have severely limited their ability to conduct business with Western nations. By integrating their banking systems, Russia and Iran hope to establish a more resilient financial infrastructure that is less dependent on Western-controlled global financial networks. This integration also signals closer cooperation between the two nations, especially in sectors such as energy, where both countries have significant interests. For Russia, the partnership with China and Iran is strategically important. While Russia has been facing increasingly harsh sanctions from the West, particularly following its annexation of Crimea and its involvement in the conflict in Ukraine, China offers an alternative economic partner with significant global influence. Additionally, Iran, with its vast energy resources, has been a key ally for Russia in the Middle East. The strengthening of economic ties between the three nations also serves to challenge US sanctions, which have aimed to isolate Russia, Iran, and China from the global economy. From China's perspective, the growing alliance with Russia offers several benefits. Russia provides China with access to natural resources, including oil and natural gas, which are critical to China's energy needs. Furthermore, the partnership with Russia allows China to challenge US hegemony, particularly in global trade and military affairs. As China continues to assert itself as a rising power, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region, its partnership with Russia serves as a counterbalance to US influence in the region. The developments between Russia, China, and Iran raise important questions about the future of global geopolitics. The increasing cooperation between these nations represents a challenge to the US and its allies, particularly as the Biden administration grapples with managing the tensions between these emerging powers. The strategic partnership between Russia and China is particularly concerning for Washington, as both nations have vast military capabilities and growing economic influence. In response, the US has been working to strengthen its alliances with other countries, particularly in Europe and Asia, to counter the growing influence of Russia and China. The Biden administration has focused on re-engaging with NATO and other international organizations to present a united front against the challenge posed by these nations. However, the effectiveness of these efforts remains to be seen, especially as Russia and China continue to deepen their ties and expand their influence. As the global power dynamics shift, the world is increasingly facing a multipolar order, where the influence of the US is being contested by a growing bloc of nations led by Russia and China. The cooperation between these two countries is likely to have significant implications for global security, trade, and diplomacy in the coming years. The partnership between Russia, China, and Iran represents a direct challenge to the US-led international order and may lead to new economic and military alliances as countries seek to align themselves with one of the emerging power centers. The situation also highlights the limitations of US foreign policy in dealing with the rise of China and Russia. While the US has used sanctions and diplomatic pressure to curb the influence of these countries, the growing cooperation between them suggests that these efforts may not be as effective as previously thought. As Russia and China continue to align their interests, it may become more difficult for the US to isolate them economically and politically.